mobility rocks. Shared mobility rocks.
So, Jeffrey, people know already that you are Jeffrey, but actually, what are you doing normally?
Yes, I'm working with Autodelen.net, and we are trying to promote shared mobility in the world, and we try to make it mainstream and give a positive alternative for privately owned cars. And what are you doing?
Well, I'm working for Taxistop. This is a Belgian NGO. Already since 1975, we are an operator of shared mobility, car sharing, carpooling, transport service for elderly. But besides that, we are working on awareness to maximize the benefits of shared mobility in Belgium and beyond.
And Shared Mobility Rocks, what is it all about?
Yes, it's already the third time that we are organizing Shared Mobility Rocks. The first editions, physical events, now an online event with the opportunity to share our vibes or ideas with the whole world. And what we want to achieve is just more livable and accessible cities and regions. And we believe that we can do it by promoting shared mobility connected to other modes of transport, cycling, public transport. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. This is our vision.
Yes, and it's really all over the world. We are really proud. Right now, we have our 10th country in 24 hours in Lviv, spread all over the 6 continents, and we have 70 speakers, or we had 70 speakers concerning together with the Lviv speakers, and it's all experts on the topic of shared mobility. And moreover, we have a lot of participants, isn't it, Angelo?
Yes, indeed, from 65 different countries. That was amazing. And 1,100 participants subscribed to the event, and we asked them, like, the favorite rock song. So I know your favorite rock song, yours, I know it, it's on our list, but we created this Shared Mobility Rocks Spotify playlist with it. So if you want to listen to rock music, like Queen favorite rock songs, but also Japanese rock songs, go to the Spotify playlists. And this is not so relevant anymore. We won't have any intermezzo anymore because this is the last session. But after this session, we have final beats. We do a wrap-up about shared mobility golden rules together with Mohamed Mezgani from UITP, Luana Bidaska from DJ Move, and she's our famous rock star, also Rebecca Carbaumer from the city of Bremen.
And now we give the floor to Lina in the Lviv studio. We are listening, the floor is yours, and the world is listening to you. Good luck.
Hey.
Good luck.
It's my life, it's now or never. I'm gonna live forever. I just want to live while I'm alive. It's my life. Lviv, this city is really my life. I live here, I work here. I see and feel all these improvements taking place in the city. And officials, and some of them are here in our studio now. Before they introduce themselves, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Marta, and I'm working here by TUMI. GIZ is a German federal enterprise for international cooperation. And I would like to say hello to Berlin, to my colleague Lena. Lena, hey.
Hi, everyone. Greetings from Berlin. Nice to see you in Lviv, and nice to have everyone here and be able to join this session. I'm also working for GIZ and the Transformative Urban Mobility Initiative, and we're really excited to tell you a little bit about the great efforts and improvements happening in Lviv and have been happening over the last few years already.
Okay, thank you. And before we dive in deep discussion about the situation about sustainable mobility and shared mobility here in Lviv, I would like to share with you, to show you the video, what is made by our ex-chief architect, Julian Chaplinsky. And now he is not only architect, but also Ukrainian blogger. Let's watch a video.
Hi, my name is Julian Chaplinsky. During 5 years, I was working as a chief architect of the city of Lviv, and then half a year I was working as a vice minister of the Ministry of Regional Development of Ukraine. For the next 10 minutes, I'll try shortly describe you the history of Lviv mobility and what is happening now with the urban initiatives and the urban mobility plan. Like any European city, Lviv was formed according to general plans several times. In the 19th century, the Habsburg government placed a significant political role on the city, making it the capital of its province. Following the example of Vienna, Lviv dismantled the medieval walls and formed a new scale of avenue with the corresponding metropolitan height, which reached about 30 meters. The city got dense buildings of neighborhoods of city center and a good human scale on the streets. This period is considered as the golden age of Lviv's development. At that times, mobility in the city took place on foot by horse-drawn tram and horse-drawn carriages. Later in the interwar period, Lviv came under Polish rule. The Polish government has continued to build the city and almost double the area of housing and public facilities in the city. The tram network was already developed. Cars were still considered as a luxury stuff. After the Second World War, the city was devastated not so much architecturally as the population. The genocide of Jewish population at the hands of the Nazis and losing the indigenous Polish population left the city empty. The population was only about 100,000 people. The Soviet government, under whose influence the city came, began to industrialize the city and fill it with people. The first housing for factory workers at that time was far from the city center and more like a cottage building. But already in the 60s, the authorities realized that such a density of buildings is not effective, and very soon, as so-called Khrushchevkas were built like boxes on 5 floors. Buses and trolley buses are added to the mobility in this period. The tram remains as an important player in this place. The level of motorization is still very low. In the 70s, the buildings area almost doubled again, and population increased from 400,000 to almost 800,000. Housing takes new scale from 9 to 16 floors. There are so-called dormitories to absorb the surrounding villages. In those years, the imagination of urban planners, as in the entire Soviet Union, was focused on the car as the main type of mobility in the future. Building codes and standards are very conducive to this. Despite the fact that new streets and avenues are being built with very wide red lines, all housing, which is about 6 million square meters, is being built without parking, but the city has huge spots of garage cooperatives that look like worth on the body. With the advent of Ukraine's independence, the government, which is tired of the lack of private property, began a rapid privatization process. People privatized their apartments, garages, houses, etc. But the problem was that the land was not well thought out. Dozens and hundreds of apartment owners received their apartments and flats, but the city was still responsible for the maintenance of territory, for the technical condition of house, for the conditions of the roof and facade. Thus, by the year of 2000, most Soviet houses had reached a terrible state. Historic buildings and architectural monuments are on the verge of extinction. The improvement of the economical situation in the middle of the 2000s led to the emergence of good new housing equipment with parking lots. People began to earn more, entrepreneurial activity improved, and accordingly the level of motorization began to grow rapidly. Cars flooded the streets, sidewalks and courtyards. By 2015, the level of motorization has already 2,050 cars per 1,000 of population. But the recent government policies in the 90s, the of the city budget and poor management have led to the almost complete extinction of electric urban transport. The authorities have made an alternative minibuses, or in Ukrainian marshrutka, and it was provided by private companies, which later began to blackmail the city authorities and providing very poor. 2006 realized its mistake and began the process of reviving the tram service. The Lviv manufacturer Electron, which made TV sets during the Soviet period, changed its profile and started making new trams. The city began to strengthen urban transport agencies, took out loans and bought many units of new comfortable transport units. In 2016, the city built a tram road to Sihiu, the largest residential area of the city, founded in the 70s. But this did not solve the problem, because many people who grew up in the car deficit of the USSR and then got used to moving exclusively by car very aggressively perceived the actions of the authorities to limit their car rights. The city has repeatedly involved European experts for consultations. In 2008, the city made the first unpopular urban transformations. Walking area in the historical center of Lviv, which later caused a big tourist explosion, and the whole center was filled with hotels and restaurants. Old townhouses began to be bought and restored. A new quality of restaurant services has appeared, and now Lviv is considered to be the gastronomic capital of the country. The number of tourists has increased since 2008 from 100,000 to almost 3 million tourists a year. The city has also built about 100 kilometers of cycle paths out of the planned 250, but the percentage of cycling has not increased significantly. Bicycle lanes are still not the only comfortable network, so it's not trustworthy. In addition, people simply have nowhere to keep their bikes. Universities and their communities and their leaders still do not promote the development of cycling infrastructure on their campuses. Only Ukrainian Catholic University, which will open its new dormitory in 2021, will offer students an underground bicycle parking lot. Ongoing discussions on parking and urban mobility priorities have led to the development of Sustainable Mobility Plan, which was approved by the 2019 session of deputies in City Council. Despite the fact that this pedestrian and his safety in this plan are declared as absolute value, the implementation of this plan constantly causes heated discussions and conflicts. Society is divided into so-called urbanists and car owners. Car owners are reacted terribly aggressively to initiatives to expand paid parking, to create separate public transport lanes, demand the construction of multi-level cars crossing and multi-level free parking in the city center. On the other hand, cyclists are seen as poor and disadvantaged types of society. A new wave of housing construction has started in the city since 2014. As people do not trust to the state and banking system, a large number of people invest in housing. Parking lots are not in demand because the population believes that they will always find a free place on the street. The lack of a new law that would strictly regulate parking policy and would not facilitate the purchase of cars, the lack of political will from deputies who themselves drive expensive cars leads to the city Being congested, the streets have become unsuitable for both road users and pedestrians. Authorities are trying to find a compromise between two worlds. The city invests in public spaces and pedestrian streets, trying to show good examples for the comfort of the city. But this is not facilitated by the opportunity to buy used, cheap cars from the European Union. The population has bought thousands of cheap cars from Europe and is now blackmailing the central government with a social revolution for the reason they want to make less taxes to take these cars from Europe. Lviv is definitely ahead of other cities in urban initiatives. There are many non-governmental organizations and associations that know of examples of good urban conditions in the world. Lviv has built several dozen new public spaces, carried out high-quality reconstruction of parks and streets, launched co-financing programs for the restoration of architectural monuments, turned the city center into a museum. But the main discussion is what should be the new city master plan, on which ideology it should still be based in the subject of discord and conflict. Liberal forces are proposing to develop short-distance city and not to develop the city extensively, proposing a reasonable completion of the 5-kilometer zone around the city center, while right-wing forces are pushing for a master plan, drawing dozens of multi-level street crossings more similar to highways between cities than living city streets. I hope this information was suitable for you. I think we all can make a lot to make our cities better. Keep calm and do your cities happier.
Many thanks and loves to Julian for this video. And now you have impression what is going on in Lviv. And now it is the time to introduce my lovely colleagues here in the studio. Andriy Billy is the main transport and mobility manager in the city.
Hello, everyone.
And what is your opinion regarding shared mobility and sustainable mobility? What is your favorite mode of transport?
I believe that shared mobility actually is the only one way where we can go to. And basically, I live 3 and 5 kilometers from point where I work. And for me, it's suitable to walk or to ride by bike or to use public transport. Unfortunately, car usage is the most time spent option for me. But when was the winter and where a lot of car drivers were out of roads, then I took my car and also use it. It's okay. But shared mobility actually is a way how we can let's say manage our transportation, yeah, in space, and that's actually the point where we can teach and explain and change this culture, because it's a really long time to change people behavior.
Thank you. Pavlo Servatko is head of investment department in the municipal company Lviv Avtodor, which is dealing with reconstruction and building of streets, parking management, and also electronic ticket is in the process, and Lviv Avtodor will be operator of this system. Pavlo, what about you?
Well, for me, public transport is the most often way I move the city, but more important is to make a right mix and to choose how to go, depending on what you will need. And yes, sharing different options, it's much more useful than to take car or bicycle wherever you need your own one. It's better when you can take some company's one on the street and live where it can be used by somebody else.
Thank you. Oras Talaiskim, Head of Transport Office in Lviv. What about you?
Yeah, hello. Shared mobility for me is a way of the future, I would say, for transportation. And I personally chosen bicycle as my main mode of transport, and for me it's the most flexible way to move around the city. I also bought recently electric scooter, so I like to experiment with my mobility. Actually, I prefer also during my let's say daily movement around the city, I prefer walking, but walking I think is the best way to move the city, to see the city, and to keep yourself fit, I would say.
Thank you. Maybe you would like to present a sustainable urban mobility plan.
Yes, as Julian previously mentioned, our city developed a sustainable urban mobility plan this last year. So I will introduce you to the plan. So let's see the presentation. So we started our work on sustainable urban mobility plan in 2018. We developed a group joined by GIZ as well as international experts that led us through our process of developing the sustainable urban mobility plan. It took us 2 years, and I think we got a good result. During our work, we also did a mobility survey, and here's our mobility split of Lviv. You can see that our main mode of transport in the city is public transport. 52% of people move using public transport. Cars are 23%, and walking is also quite an important way of transportation. It's 18%. Cycling is around 6%. But what trends do we see in the city is that car ownership is growing, public transport is, we see less people using public transport, especially now in COVID times, but cycling is growing. So we were at the point where we had to decide, where should we go? Should we make a city for cars, or should we make a city for people? So if we look at the examples of Lviv here, how the city of cars looks like, is it really a place where we want to live? Is this how we want our city to be like? Or do we want it to be accessible for all people, livable and a pleasant place to live? So first thing that we decided to do is to shift from the perspective of transport to mobility perspective. And we set clear priorities. So first of all, we prioritize movement of people, all sorts of people. Public transport, as I said, is the most important, it's the backbone of our city. Also cycling and light mobility. Then logistics and business, moving cars, and in the last point, parked cars. So our vision is safe, environmentally friendly, comfortable, and fast urban mobility for everyone. We set to ourselves 7 challenges that we had to work with, and I will tell main of them, let's say, what we plan to do in the next 10 years. So one of the main challenges is traffic safety, and our aim is to reach 0 fatalities in road accidents. If you look at our statistics, we have quite a lot of people injured during the year. If we see a lot of them are pedestrians, and many accidents happen at night or at dusk. So what we plan to do is to reduce speed as the main source of accident in the city, as well as by introducing infrastructural measures that can prevent injuries and fatalities in the city. Our main focus is safety during the nighttime. We lighten almost all pedestrian crossings in the city. We introduce islands, safety islands in the city, and clearly prioritize walking people, pedestrians, as well as channeling main kind of transportation. Also, the main focus is the safety of intersections and crossings, and introducing new traffic lights. As I mentioned before, public transport is a backbone of our city. So we aim to make our public transport efficient, comfortable, and eco-friendly. Our main project that we work now is the introduction of electronic ticket that will help make our public transport more accessible for people, will make it more efficient and more suitable for people. We plan to introduce cashless payment, one ticket for all modes of public transport, and free interchange between all sorts of public transport. Now we're working on a new route network that will make public transport more efficient and allow people to easily interchange between different modes of public transportation. We are now working on extension of our dedicated bus lane network that will not be only introduced in the city center, but in all main routes of public transportation. Our more, let's say, goal for the next years is to extend our electric transport network. We have trams and trolley buses. As Julian mentioned before, we already extended quite significantly our tram network to one of the main residential districts, and we plan to continue this work and to lengthen our tram network and trolley bus network to connect all main residential districts. Also, we plan to introduce this suburban railway inside the city, and to make mobility nodes for the easy and efficient interchange between different modes. Also, we plan to make bicycle an attractive mode of transportation for high number of citizens, because a lot of people still use a bicycle and perceive bicycle as a leisure, not as a transport mode. And to change this behavior, we plan to extend our cycling network for around 300 kilometers of cycle lanes and passes. Now we have 100, and we continue our work to connect all main routes. Our important aim is to create good conditions for cycling and to consider cyclist needs in all projects that are made in the city. Our also main goal is to connect the development of city areas with the transport infrastructures and to create a city of short distances. Now, as we've developed an integrated concept of the city, where we plan to, first of all, to develop the areas that are extensively used, that are close to the city center, and not outside, and not to spread the city and make distances more longer. So we're now working on main desire lines to make them more attractive and to develop sub-centers in the districts and the neighborhoods to make them more self-sufficient. So thank you. This is our team, and you can visit our website and learn more about our sustainable urban mobility plan.
Thank you, Orest, a lot. And what is actually the main challenge? Why do we stay in this crossroads, and some projects are done actually with approach car-oriented, and some projects are done like livable city, comfortable public spaces and streets, or also for people? What is the problem? Maybe you would like also to join the...
Yeah, I can. Actually, if you look at our city, as we are a post-Soviet country, our society is in a transition from the priorities, from the thinking that was in the previous time to the more, let's say, European, more sustainable thinking that younger generation is now perceiving. So we're in this transition, and we should help people to move more quickly.
Yeah, because it's point of culture, it's point of understanding. It's always too hard, very hard to rethink the way of sense of this city, and in projects, let's say 10 years ago, it was totally different projects, and it was a focus on flat road, not on the overall structure of the street, just flat road. And now we are talking about how we should spread this area between buildings, not only roads for cars, but also some sidewalks, green areas, some spaces for rest. And it's everything around we call street already. And now we should just learn and explain and teach people how to feel this space. Because it's not only road for transition by cars, it's like place to live in. And it's already a very different approach. Another point of view, let's say, very different point of view.
You have nice video, Andriy, in your YouTube channel about Soviet planning approach and sustainable urban planning. Let's watch the video.
Hello everybody, I'm leaving the office right now. I had the opportunity to explore different streets, and in this video I'm going to talk about the difference between the two approaches in design, the Soviet and the modern European one, which sometimes is referred to as urban. Urban studies in general is the science of urban planning and development, the rules and principles of space planning, including the streets, space and confined space, so that traffic participants and road users feel comfortable. The land in the city center is very pricey, and the overall success of project greatly depends on how wisely it will be distributed. Let's take a look at a few relatively recent projects implemented between 2010 and 2020. One particular project was implemented in 2006. By the way, let's try and see the difference. Let us begin from Promislova Street, which has a very interesting width in the part between Lipinskoho Street and the tram depot. Promislova Street was last repaired in 2006. Every time I take it, I ask myself, what is the purpose of 2 meters in the middle served to? This is a clear illustration of poor space efficiency. Let's take a look at the intersection of Osmomysl Square and Soborno Square. Why are these road pools here? Because drivers used to park their cars here, which actually block the work of public transport, which means that hundreds of people couldn't get to their destination on time. Such incidents happened so often that those poles had to be mounted here to avoid car parking. However, if the reconstruction of Khmelnytskaya Street had been done by urban planners who know the principle of space design, they would have done a much better job. For example, they would have made wide sidewalk with a green area, which would look more aesthetic than this ton of concrete. It's more like a sauna now. Everything is covered with stones, which tend to heat up, and no greenery at all. This is an example of standard Soviet project. Another interesting solution is a stop right in the middle of the road, where the streetcar stops to let the passengers get off. It makes me crazy. Soborno Square. The streetcar makes a U-turn running on the oncoming lane with a quite heavily traffic, but a more daunting challenge here is concrete, which covers everything indeed. There is neither form nor understanding of what, why, or how. Huge areas plowed with stones or asphalt with vague traffic indicators. This is a Soviet approach, that is, ill-designed space, huge radius for 30 meters vehicle to make a U-turn maneuver. Why would you do in the center? It's incomprehensible. Let's take a look at Horodotska Street, another example of non-urban city development. A wide carriageway with a plowed lane in the middle that serves to no one. It's just take a very expensive space. Look at those relentless waves of people. According to our estimates, 3,000 people cross these streets in an hour, compared to less than 1,000 people who manage to get to Svobody Avenue by car. Another example of so-called efficient use of space. A 3-meter wide pedestrian way crossing has a high pass-through capacity than 3 meters of the car lane. Those are present-day reality. This is another example of completely wrong use of space covered with tons of stones. There are 2 meters lanes each way here. Also, there is a room for another lane. They could have made a full-size sidewalk or green areas or even parking slot. On the other side of the road, there is a narrow sidewalk, which is less than 1 meter wide. Speaking of these fences, they are absolute evil that does not protect anybody. Should a car crash into it, this fence turns into a grenade that maims and injures people. On the other side of the road, there is a narrow sidewalk on the corner less than 1 meter wide. Also, there is a 1.5 lane there for cars. 1.5 lane, but it could have made a full-size sidewalk and 1 lane instead. There is too little space for car to pass and not enough space for pedestrian either. This is an example of ill-designed space. I'm struggling with word here, but it seems like people just do not think about how to use the space properly. They made a line using AutoCAD clueless of its purpose and let the devil take the shame. The key principle for the intersection design is you don't care how it works. If you look at those intersections from above, they're hideous. It's impossible to understand where to go. If you happen to take this sidewalk, you are destined to hit another pedestrian. And this when half of the lane for cars is not used at all. Why not make the sidewalk wider? I don't know the answer to the question. Why don't people think before they do something? That's the way people are forced to work here. Urban planning is a science of city development. There is a great deal of research. People are trying to analyze the situation. By the way, Lviv has a powerful urban movement. Some people choose to develop in urban studies. Urban planning is about making cities comfortable for people. How to make Horodotska Street a place that would be comfortable for people. It's not comfortable here. I agree, it's not. At present, it's not a place that can justly be called comfortable. This is a place you would rather pass quickly because there is nothing to do here. Even businesses and stores which are based on the ground floor along the street are dying because people are the driving force for the economy. Not cars speeding past, but people who stop, have a cup of coffee or shopping. This helps develop the city and the economy. When we have kilometers of paved concrete road, it becomes waste space that offers no beauty and eye can rest on. This is Rudansko Street, which is located right in the center of Lviv. There used to be unregulated parking here. 10 to 15 cars would park here daily. Their passage between the street was quite narrow. Take a look at the street now. It has turned into a beautiful pedestrian street, which is very short, but it has become a very cozy place for people who love to spend time in Pullman cafes here and socialize. The Pullman cafes have expanded a bit and the whole place looks very comfortable and attractive. Here is another project that deserves our attention. As designers,
we are committed to make sure people who use this public space are comfortable and happy. I'll probably start with the fact that the sidewalk levels out with the roadbed, the street runs up and there is a teeny slope. You see how the space has been thoughtfully organized. Let me show you earlier picture. The way it used to be, I think it was awful. Now we can see quite wide sidewalk, greenery, and parking space on both sides, because designers and planners work expertly and sensibly. They realize that a dead end at the end of the street suggested this street could be made one lane but two ways. This is a bad example of parking your car, especially given the fact it's next to other people's driveway. This is very bad parking. This car cumbers pedestrian area and causes inconveniences. Look at these people. They're sitting on the road poles because they like it here. Look at these flower beds and green space. It's very gratifying that such a large tree has been preserved. In a nutshell, it's a super cool, well thought out project. This formerly unattractive and unwelcoming street close to the city center, which had nothing to offer but unregulated parking, has been converted in a cool street paved with the mosaics, with traffic lay-by for the cars who pass each other, with bicycle and motorcycle parking. You can see people here sitting and resting. Their tree offers natural shadow with enough space for everyone. This is a well thought out Rimlana street. Speaking of projects, I believe it's important to keep involving people in the discussion. One of the nice examples can be Vitovsko Street, Shevchenko Street, and Bandera Street. I would like to have more good quality and well thought out streets in Lviv. Streets with well-arranged space. It's great that in Lviv there is a powerful movement of urban planners, people who want to influence and see into the matter of city development. And that's cool, it's nice. So actually that's it, what I wanted to show you in this video. If you like or have a question, please comment. I would pleased to say you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and probably sometimes I will make another video on English. Wish you good luck. Have a good day.
So it actually was a short video about changes in our street reconstruction, and we changed a lot, I believe. And actually now we are talking not only about roads, as I said before, but also about whole space between buildings. And we actually reconstruct whole this space and think, or not even rethink, how to change it better. And another point which I wanted to talk about, that actually in our sustainable urban mobility plan, which we developed, which actually my colleague Orest showed to you shortly, we defined as one of the challenge is institutional challenge. And actually a lot of problems actually started, or root cause actually from organizations. And this year we are planning to slightly change Lviv City Council structure, and we want to create mobility department, and actually it will be 3 directions how to develop mobility in active mode. It's walking and riding, bicycle riding, or individual electric vehicles. Another direction is public transport, which is backbone of our transport model. And third one is logistics and car mobility, because of course today's it's very hard to imagine life without car for like 30–40% of population of our city, and of course we should think how to organize it in a better way. And it would be 3 directions of mobility, and of course it should work together for best result. One of the direction, it would be actually sidewalking and bicycle ride modes, and actually also thanks to GIZ and to me team, we already have such green line brochure which describes how we want to develop this active mode mobility. And we already choose even one
direction,
one way, one path. Yeah. For connection, it's also with Sikhiv because it's one of the biggest districts in Lviv, and it should connect city center and Sikhiv. And actually, we have another video also from my YouTube channel. Sorry for this translation because it's really different emotions when you're talking on the street and when you just read some prepared text for this video. And of course, it's differently accepted, differently сприймається. And I propose to watch this video. It's like about such way. Yeah. It would be combined path, bicycle and walking path, and it should connect and give another opportunity for connection. I propose to watch this video, and probably Lena or my colleagues will have some questions, and we continue. Hello everyone, today I went to have a look at the route of the Green Line within this project in Lviv. I will show it to you. I took my son for a bike ride today. In this way I mixed work with enjoyment. In this video I will tell you about the Green Line project in Lviv, and we will talk about ideal city, how it should look like. So what is Green Line? What is it for? Now let's start with something different. Have you ever dreamed about or pondered what city should look like? How should an ideal city look like? Have you ever thought about it at all? When I lived in Kiev and I wasted hours in traffic in my nice car, I thought it was necessary to build injunctions and certainly expand roads. I believed that that additional lane will reduce congestions. That would increase comfort and convenience for cars, and life would be great. Back then, I didn't understand that I was looking at the things from just one perspective, the perspective from behind the wheel. Well, behind the wheel of my car, basically. Now it's 3 years I'm working in mobility improvements for Lviv city, and now I understand that from a broader, more global perspective, road expansion can ever destroy city. I spent some time to choose right location for this video, by the way, in one of the elements that can and must be featured in ideal cities. And there should be more places like this in the city. I'm talking about small park area where you cannot drive in by car. You can either walk or bike to this place. I will show you around. It's located in vicinity of a railroad and Horichovy High Park. It boasts various ramps where my son likes performing bike tricks. So we come here from time to time. In fact, almost all benches here are occupied all the times. All of them. People have a blast here. And I believe it's one of the features of an ideal city. Availability of places where people can blissfully happy, where they can just sit and relax in silence. This place is completely free from the sound of traffic. It's filled with a chirping of birds. You can see children playing teens consumed by mafia game, harmony reigns here, and nothing disturbs you. Not a single scene bothers your mind. An ideal city is a city comfortable for living. Why the Green Line and what's the idea behind it? The idea is to create multiple convenient connections between the city center and residential districts that would cross green spaces like parks, encourage people to walk or cycle. This is the main idea for the Green Line. While developing sustainable urban mobility plan for Lviv, we roughly sketched the route and decided to implement the concept of one pilot segment to demonstrate its potential and test whether it would be convenient and comfortable for people. The Sikhiv district was not a random choice, as it's the biggest one in Lviv. It has the largest population and is quite a long way from the city center. Besides, there are innumerable local magnets and places of interest along the route of the future Green Line. Apart from residential buildings, they include the sugar market, the theological seminary, the university campus, the modern university library, which we call Sheptitsky Center, big Stritsky Park, another park of culture, and the future IT park that, as you know, will be built between Stritsky Street and Luhansk Street. All these facilities can be linked by this pedestrian and bicycle route. Can you imagine how many thousands of people per hour can walk or bike on a path 3 meters wide? It's by far much more efficient than cars. Its efficiency in terms of the usage of 1 square meters of infrastructure is much higher in comparison with cars. That's why we decided to implement this demo project, and that's where GIZ came in. You know that it's a governmental organization of Germany that helps the city of Lviv to develop. GIZ also provided us, including me, with some specialistic training. For example, I've been in Munich, Freiburg, and Leipzig to have hands-on experience of how it should work in terms of mobility in the city. Also, GIZ was the one to have initiated project development of first Green Line. Basically, they designed the demo segment of it that will co-financed by GIZ in the amount of €50,000 and another part till approximately €3,000 will be budgeted in the Lviv budget. And this cost will include lighting, street furniture, and proper paving for both and bike path and the sidewalk. And then we will commission the next segment of Green Line. The concept is ready for its sections stretching to the Park of Culture. It will be a fantastic route running through parks and utilizing infrastructure and residential neighborhood street to make your travel to work enjoyable. Please share your thoughts. How would you describe your ideal city to live in? Not to travel by car or bike. What makes a city comfortable, safe, and enjoyable day in, day out? A city where you want to wake up, fall asleep, walk around with your kids, or so on. Think along those lines. Special thanks to GIZ for their unwavering support and assistance, and thank you for your all comments. Have a good day, everyone. See you soon.
I'm really a fan of this project Green Line, and I'm very happy that we started already the process about network of these green lines. And because not only for active mobility, for shared mobility and green zones, we proceed with the project mobility hubs as transport nodes for using of all people. Pavlon.
Hello. So I will try to shortly explain what we think about mobility hubs, how we get to these ideas, and how it, we hope, will be working. So Generally, what mobility hub is for us something what is more than just few bus stops or some other only public transport infrastructure or only car infrastructure, but place where you can easily change between nodes and place where you can have additional information and additional services which you don't usually have on every stop or every street or something. So last year we had to midsummer school, which unfortunately was online, but a result of one of workshops of this online school was very good brainstorm on how mobility hubs should look like and which approaches there are in the world about this idea and how other cities deal with and what we can implement in our city and what ideas which can help us do something better than we already saw in other cities implemented. But it's not something what is just from the air. We have quite long history of doing some projects which improve quality of moving around the city. Maybe it was not named this way as mobility hub earlier years, but still it is something which I would say we are proud, and it shows that it's some step-by-step progress which led us to this idea of creating mobility hubs as well as in other cities. So first to start with is 2005. It was tram line relocated for maybe 100 meters on another side of block to make trams not staying in traffic congestion. And also, as it was relocated closer to school, it was introduced kind of noise protection, and this noise protection made this tram stop kind of very this stop knows at least that time made a lot of mentions in all over the Ukraine, at least maybe even abroad, as kind of tram station, big station, and also it's a very good location where you can walk to city center, you can walk to university, you can just pass by and go from university to park or have some other thing. Then it was St. Anna Church. It's not on the screen, but it's kind of big intersection, which was very congested. But as part of street reconstruction, it was designed to have big roundabout around this church, having all stops connected between each other and making it much more easier to change from one route to another. We have a lot of suburban lines here as well. We have a lot of retail. It's again very close to market and to city center, so it's quite crowded every day. Then it is kind of almost suburban location, Halicke Perehreste, which is a place where people leave suburban buses and take public transport, which is operated by city. So a lot of people change here from buses to buses, but now it is much more convenient. You don't need to cross a busy street. You don't need to search your bus among other crowds, and also from this place starts as its entrance to the city. So from this place starts a bus lane which goes almost to the city center. So all these routes which are now working from this stop, they are quite good and fast connection, and competitive to cars. Then much more recent, Shota Rustaveli, it was quite parked, I would say illegally parked area because it's very close to center, and it was difficult for buses to find the place where you can safely stop to allow people to go in and out. But after a few years of trying to fix it with some easy solutions like expanding driveways, like putting some signs that you don't want to park here, but nobody care about the sign, or something else, it was reconstructed. So now we have only buses and trolley buses going one direction. Another transport is going around the block, so it's much faster for if you want to go here by bus than if you want to drive car. You still can do it, but it's a bit more longer way. And also we integrated here information screens, which shows when your route would arrive. We have more disabled friendly stops, which are elevated according to standards which were accepted by City Council, also as part of a CMP, which Orest spoke about. There is also idea to have underground parking to make it even more smooth to change, to leave car not in the city center, but somewhere further away. We have also next bike here and so on. And now Dvirseva Square, which maybe even some of you already heard. On the left, it's a big square crowded with cars, with buses, with everything. And if you want to go from tram, which is somewhere there, but you can't even notice it. And if you want to get to the train from tram, it's very painful, it's uncomfortable, and as we have a lot of tourists, it's something what they remember and say that, okay, you have nice city, but why you don't do something with this mess in front of station when you just leave the train and you expect to be in nice city, and then you are in this mess. So city made efforts. Also, what Andrei told about changing from place for cars to place for people who usually don't bring a car when they leave from the train. Basically, everybody go from train walking and then decide what mode to use, or taxi, or bicycle, or tram, or bus. Also, we made big effort to integrate all these buses, trams, suburban buses as close as possible to trains. So you don't need to walk a lot. You just leave the station and see where is bus, where is tram, and if you want, you can make effort and find taxi as well, or place where you can be picked up by your friends. Also, well, about numbers, it's 23 million of passengers only of long distance trains, not saying about suburban ones. And all these people, most of them don't use cars from train stations, so they use public transport, and that's why we made effort to make this use of public transport as comfortable as possible. A little about planned project, Bandera-Chuprinki. It's intersection of two streets and two tram routes, which is now being reconstructed, and we are going to integrate not only existing tram stops, next bike station, parkings which are nearby, but also make it kind of a really mobility hub in newer ideas that you would have more information about which mobility modes you can use here. You would have a chance to see where is different option, and you would have very smooth transfer between different modes. Again, nice photos of this area before reconstruction, and I hope after reconstruction it would be much more interesting. And welcome to our city. Yeah, shortly about implementation team, which is GIZ, which is city, which is a lot of different stakeholders. Also, it's not only construction of things, it's also operation, because we don't want to build something which then would be not maintained in real way, in good way. And we had also some experience of areas which were done good way, but were not maintained. So maintenance, it's one more important thing which I advise you to consider. Thank you. Let's discuss it.
Okay, thank you, Pablo, a lot for presenting. Lena, would you like? Ah, you are here. Hey. You have many questions, as I know.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, first of all, for giving us this overview of the history of mobility in Lviv, and then what you're currently doing and what you're planning in the future. So to me, it's always quite inspiring to see the ambition and also the results that you're putting down in Lviv. So let me ask Andriy maybe, because I know that he talked a lot about the change in urban planning approach. What started this mindset change? How come the city of Lviv started to plan more sustainably its urban mobility mode?
Thank you, Lena, for question. First of all, I should tell that in Lviv we have municipal company for preparing projects for such reconstructions, and this municipal company really understand depths of meaning of urban planning. Another way, we trying to collaborate with people, to talk with them, to create some groups of people, to discuss it, and we're trying to explain before we start this reconstruction how it will change their style of life, probably. Because if you make 4 lanes for cars, it's one approach and one background for life or backstage for life. Or if you, for example, prepare a project for 2 lanes for cars, and we, for example, prepare some place for bicycle lanes, it means that we already prepare or propose something different for people. And this, of course, should be properly explained to people before we start, because if we do not communicate with people, then they have a lot of questions, and sometimes they even can block the reconstructions, totally stop the reconstruction, because they don't understand what's happening. And this is really like gap between understanding of project organization and understanding of people. And from another point, of course, in Lviv, I don't know how it's happened, but today I'm sure that Lviv is really fragment of urban movement, of urban approaches, of city development in Ukraine. It's just first approaches, first tries, first urban, let's say, design, etc. So it's really in a lot of questions, it's just first, and it's very hard. I don't understand, or I can, of course, some ideas. First of all, Lviv is the west part of Ukraine, and a lot of people from Lviv were in Europe, and a lot of people worked in Europe before even like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and they already asked the question, what is the difference? Why we feel like Krakow really differently than Lviv? Why? And they started to think why it's happened. And they understood that it's not about language, it's not about culture, it's not about, let's say, money. It's more about how we design streets, because streets actually base for next behaviors, for our let's say we are programming culture of usage, yeah, and that's the point. And here probably guys, some activists, some organization understood it's like quicker than in other city.
But I like that you're pointing out that this form of cities who serve as a role model to kind of pave the way and show that it's possible to do it differently really has a strong effect on citizens in demonstrating to them how they can ultimately use their cities if a different mindset is applied. So this brings me to a question to Orest maybe, because you mentioned about the sustainable urban mobility plan, and Andri has just pointed out how important it is to have the citizens' perspective in it and have public participation. So how do you ensure public participation during the SUMP?
Yes, Diana. Actually, during all our 2-year work on the SUMP, we in different ways involved the public, and it was a very important part of our process of SUMP. As I mentioned, we did different surveys to find the opinion of people and to find what people really want, how they behave now, and what are the main issues that people can change their behavior. As well as we did different workshops involving stakeholders as concerning different organizations that have some expertise in different questions. It's also some expert different societies that help us and also gave some new ideas, as well as just citizens that wanted to join this process, wanted to give some ideas, to tell how they behave, what they would like to change in the city, how they feel. And it was very important. And another thing what we did was also make some focus groups of ordinary people and discuss with them different problems of the city, different, I would say, points of, for example, walking, how their experience in using public transport, and also their experience in using, for example, also a car in the city. And it helped us a lot to understand what actions we should make in Lviv and how we should communicate with people.
And do you feel that you've convinced the majority of Lviv citizens of the benefits, or do you sometimes still experience some resistance from people who feel like cars are being taken away?
I can answer this question, Lena.
Yes,
we do not have a task to convince a majority of people. We have, let's say, active group of who accept and active group who do not accept. And actually, our task to have more people in the group of people who accept it. You know, we have another task, and of course, if we fail in this, then we cannot move forward.
If I can add, it's very important not to ask people what they want to, because they would say, I don't know, parking in front of my place and also bus route from my place of living to my place of work, and it should be every 2 minutes because I want just to, maybe I will use car, maybe I use bus, I don't know, but I need this and this and this. But you need to ask what difficulties you have, and then you propose them solutions, because it's a very common mistake if you start asking like, shall we build road here or road here? And it's not something you want to hear answer from. And regarding what Andrei told, it's also important that most of people for whom you did something good, they would be silent because they are happy and they are happily silent that, okay, I'm now driving to my work, not half hour, but 10 minutes. Why should I make some actions? I just enjoy it. And those who are not happy, you would hear them a lot. And it's very important to understand and convince everybody that this unhappy part is maybe noisier, maybe you can hear them both more, you can see them more, but it's smaller part. And on the contrary, we have so many people who are having these benefits. And maybe they don't go to the meeting in front of city council saying that new bus is perfect. I don't know. They just use it.
Yeah. Actually, a good example always is bus lanes, because we understand that like half of movement in city made by buses, by public transport. And when we introduce the lane for buses, and a lot of people just moves like 2-3 times faster on the bus or on the tram, they of course are happy. But from another side, like small portion of people who drive a car every day, they are not happy, and of course they are screaming so noisily. It seems like everything is bad. But when we just ask people how do you feel in the bus now, they're happy. They say, yes, it's great, great decision, great solution, super. But they're silent. In social media, they're silent, and they just, like Pablo said, they just enjoy.
Yeah. So when you look at this surveys, if you ask all people, all kind of people, you see a completely different picture than you see on the media or on social media.
That's good to know. So we need to also think of ways to get the people who are happy about solutions to speak out more, so that we can ensure there's a balanced dialogue in the public area. So there's one question that just came in the chat from Ralph Gambetta. He asks, how do you envisage to create more customer orientation and service culture among public transport employees? Who could answer this question?
Well, I would start maybe from very far away, and colleagues would add, but custom orientation of public transport, in case if a lot of people use it, it's very different from custom orientation. I don't want to hurt somebody, but in typical United States city where you have like 1% modal split of public transport, because then you can easily adjust bus routes to every single passenger. You can make bus driver know everybody's face, but like having 10 persons per day boarding. But if we have more than 50% using public transport every day, it's more that, at least in our city, people want it fast and predictable, not fit to specifically their needs of specific today. I just want to know that a tram from A to B would be going every, I don't know, 3-5 minutes during the day, and I will use it, and I get to where I need, or where I need to change to another route. And it's not something I want push the button and then run to the stop waiting that in 5 minutes it would be the only bus for the day in this area. And it's, well, it's different perspective when you have a lot of people already using, so you need to convince them to stay in public transport. And if you have very small amount.
Stay in public transport, no?
If you have very small amount, you have to convince drivers and convince people who use another modes to use this public transport. And it's very different and very, I would say it's more difficult task.
Thank you, Pavlo, for this opinion. Actually, I can add that we have from time to time some trainings for drivers, how to be more polite, more service-oriented, more customer-oriented. But I can give like analogic example of Maslow pyramid of motivation. And we have some base, in Maslow pyramid. I think everybody knows what is it. And when you have like safety feelings, then it's base. Then we can move forward. And some self-development is already on the top of this Maslow pyramid. And of course, in public transport, we can use the same analogical pyramid. And if we build it, then in the base would be clean, new, not overcrowded bus. It would be base, not customer-oriented or polite driver in clean T-shirt, or because it's like far away from a base. And today our task, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, but more likely it's unfortunately that we still trying to make a lot of or enough buses or vehicles of public transport on streets. And when we solve this, then we can move forward to next stage. But of course, it's a lot action in parallel. We cannot just split. First we do buses, then we put routes, then we put and of course it's like dynamic tasks in really a lot of directions. And now we are growing because a lot of villages or small cities like putting together, it's how we call it? Administrative reform of Ukraine, and we took like doubled square meters of Lviv, and it means for public transport also that we changed a lot of our routes to fulfill this need. And it's still not enough, and we understand now that we have like 400 vehicles on streets, and we need at least 1,000 vehicles. And now we have like task how to fulfill this need in vehicles number very fast. In parallel, we're trying to manage this project with automated system of collection fees for transport. We call it electronic ticket, but we change it to paying for kilometers, and it's really big reform with changes of routes, with changing of approaches for private operators of buses, and it's a lot of challenges. In parallel, we are repairing our depot for trams, for trolley buses. In parallel, we buying trolley buses, trams, buses. In parallel, we repair streets to make this prioritization, not only bus lanes, but also city lights. In parallel, we repair our catenary lines, our tram reels, and it's everything like making in parallel, but still we are quite far from where we want to be.
So you mentioned a lot of activities that the city is undertaking, and in the previous session from Kampala, what I liked that they discussed among different stakeholders, so let's say civil society representatives, private economy stakeholders, how they can cooperate to pursue the same goals. So I would be interested looking at all these tasks you're completing. Are there certain partners from either the private economy or civil society where you as city representatives say they are very crucial in supporting the effort? Or maybe even someone where you say it would be great if there would be more cooperation, if we could work more closely with them to be even more effective?
Cooperation with businesses and with civil society as city representatives. Do we have a lot of this cooperation, or do we need more?
Well, actually, our city, you know, our low slogan of the city is open to the world, and actually, our city, our administration has also been very open always to discussion. And in all our projects, we actually involve as civil society as well as private companies. And now, when we also introduce this change in ticketing, as we call it, electronic ticket, we involve our private operators of public transport, for example, quite intensively, and we discuss with them how the system should work better also for them. As well as we have a lot of, as was mentioned, different activists that always, every move that we make, they want to know how we do this, they want to know the details, and we talk with them, we explain, and we involve them in most of our projects. So we cannot make any move without, you know, this society involvement, because especially our media is always very interested in all our every other move.
Yeah, from one side it's good because society have or citizens have a lot of information in details, but from another side, sometimes it's making our solutions, decisions much more slower than it could be.
Great. So I think, Marta, what do you say? We're close to the end of the session.
Thank you a lot for this very interesting and full of diversity session. It was a pleasure to be with you here in the studio. Lena, thank you for joining us from Berlin. We had a feeling that you are here with us in the studio. And in these 24 hours, 23 and a half hours, we made a journey all around the world. And now I would like to come back to Belgium, studio in Belgium.
Thank you.
Hey!
Congratulations to the city of Lviv and GIZ for a great setting, a very interesting presentation.
Sorry. Hello. I am black and turning into white. Hello. Great session.
Hey!
Hello.
Well done. Nice t-shirts. Great session. And now it's time to go back in Ghent. We're home, Jeffrey.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lviv.